Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos, everybody. How you guys doing today?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Brian Colantuno and Mikey and Trackside Tavern for having us, and Louie and PBR. We got a really special guest today. I know we all, at least the two of us, have something to say about him because I have such history with him. I met Chad. What year did I meet you?
Would have been 99.
Wow. Okay, 1999, and we both discovered we loved the same things and hated the same things, and that's pretty awesome. Similar styles of writing, and just loved music journalism, and just had a lot of wonderful late night talks. And he believed in me so much, he even put out a record for me.
That's right.
Put out the first Western Motel 7-inch.
First one.
Thank you so much for believing in me, and look how far I've come.
Look how far you've come.
Everybody, Chad Radford, music journalist, inspirer, human, writer, just a badass dude. I know James has some things to say, and then we're going to give the floor to Chad.
Yeah, well, Chad, we met when you moved here, because I met you at Gavin's Warehouse in the West End.
Yep.
Okay.
When he used to sell records, like we unofficially met or whatever. We're both shopping with records side by side. Hey man, what's up? Or whatever. But our orbits didn't really cross until probably a few years ago, for sure. But even though we were all like in the same world hemisphere. But yeah, I'm glad you could come along. I mean, it was only a matter of time before you were on one of these discussions.
Well, also, I just want to say I'm so grateful and thank you for getting that freelance job at Creative Loafing, because you promoted every band that we've done and done reviews, and I really appreciate it. And again, put out a record for me, which, you know, inspired me, and I was like, someone believes in me, made me want to do a full-length record and make the band bigger. So, you know, when people talk to me about like that band, I consider you a member. Nice. So thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
What an early champion of your music. And,
unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it's
one of the things that I found kind of really easy when I moved to Atlanta, especially with music journalism, is there's a lot of music happening here. Like it's overwhelming.
So many great bands.
You constantly feel like you can't keep up.
Right.
But nobody wants to write about it. Like when I came to town, you know, it's like I would be looped in on these emails. And people would like, there would be like 6 people trying to write about Bright Eyes.
Right.
You know, trying to, and that was an interesting thing when I moved here. There was this huge local music scene. Nobody was paying attention. Jeff Clark was doing Stomp and Stammer, but he was just making fun of everybody.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was able to just really easily kind of stick in.
Good stuff.
And it's the first things I wrote about were electronic music and hardcore.
Wow. Well, yeah, I'm excited to talk about your record pick today.
It's not technically his pick.
Well, but it actually
We
influenced some
lassoed
electronic,
him.
actually.
Sure.
So, I mean, well, we'll let Chad talk about it. That's the whole idea of
and
this.
Cassie.
And that,
I mean,
Cassie,
it was full disclosure to anybody watching. It was kind of this album was my pick, and there's a story behind it, but like. I was like, we need to talk about this album at some point.
Who were we going to talk about it with? And it was like,
Chad.
let's get Chad.
Because, let's introduce the album first,
Yes.
and we can talk, because I think that that you interviewed them.
I've interviewed every member of the group, yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the album.
So what's the album, Chad?
What's the album?
Burning from the Inside by Bauhaus.
Burning from
Wonderful.
the Inside.
Thank you.
I'll preface this by saying, I think I've always confused people.
Mm-hmm.
I did, in high school, I did go through a pretty hardcore goth phase where I was putting on eyeliner and fishnets and things
Guilty.
like that.
Sure. Yeah.
There are photos that exist on the internet. If you dig deep enough, you'll find them. I can't deny it. But music, good music is good music. And I did
Couldn't
go
agree
through the
more.
goth phase, but all roads lead back to punk rock for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, when I was in high school and I had already kind of stumbled onto the Sex Pistols and the Misfits and things like that. There was a record store in Omaha called Drastic Plastic, and I started hanging out there a lot. And you know, back then, my impression of kind of what was quote unquote punk rock was kind of a pretty broad definition. I would go to the record store and I would see MDC T-shirts next to The Cure, next to Big Star, Love and Rockets.
Which is love. That's what it should be. Yeah.
The Butthole Surfers. Like, to me, it's all punk rock. So there was a guy who worked at that record store, and his name is Tim Moss, and he's gone on to do.
Tim.
He's gone on to do great things. I know he tour manages Mastodon now, and he's tour managed like the Melvins.
I met Tim before. He's a nice guy.
Yeah. He was very
Super nice
influential to me as like an annoying, really obnoxious kid. I remember seeing this dude. He had green dreadlocks back then. But
now he's got a big beard.
Yeah. I'll never forget. I went into the record store, and I was just asking him like a million questions, and he pulled out a box of like promo cassette tapes, and he gave me 3. He gave me the first Dinosaur Jr. album on cassette. He gave me Black Flag, Who's Got the 10.5, and he gave me Bauhaus's Swing the Heartache. And just, to this day, I still think of those 3 records in particular as kind of the foundation.
It's like 3 sides of a triangle. Like
what is Swing the Heartache?
It's a BBC session, but it's like an extended album. I have it on vinyl now, and it's 2 records.
Wow.
But a lot of the stuff is kind of scattered throughout the records. Like She's in Parties is on there.
Yeah.
And
this record, it's funny that you even mentioned the Sex Pistols because Bauhaus would refer to the Sex Pistols as an influence even on them. But meanwhile, think about who they later on inspired, And I got a chance to see them at their reunion at the Tabernacle in '99.
Yeah, I was
I'm
there.
going to bring that up, and I'm very, very angry.
Are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you. Were you there too? Okay, so I got into, Colin Tuna was there, that's great. You know what, I was there, but okay, the full story.
We don't want to get into it.
Full story is, I've been a Bauhaus fan. This album I really wanted to do because it came out when, I didn't actually start listening to it until I was like 16, so it was like 88, but so it had been out for about 5 years, and they were already on to like Love and Rockets and all of that. But I had never seen Bauhaus, and I always wanted to. So when they did that tour, I got tickets, and we were at some show at the Point beforehand.
We were definitely day drinking at a punk rock show at the Point on a Sunday afternoon.
Like a matinee show.
Yes, a matinee show, which went from 12 to 6.
Yep.
And I think there was a lady that was helping me stand up by that point.
Well,
the show was at 9.
The thing is, somebody gave me, a friend of ours, I'm not going to mention the name, gave me directions. There weren't GPSs back then. So they gave me directions, and I don't know if they gave me bad directions or if I'm just not good at
Because Tabernacle might have been House of Blues still.
House of Blues.
So it was still a pretty new venue, right?
And I got there at the very, very end, and speaking of the parking lot near Jugman's Daughter, I got there at the very, very end. I walk in, I see Paul Tillman and Tom at the end of the bar, and I just hear the last notes of Bela Lugosi's Dead. And I was like, I missed it, and Tom said something like, it was a really good show. And I was like, furious. So
I always do that to people, by the way. I give them that one last,
Can I tell you?
It was a really good show. I was so livid. I did eventually see them because when they announced the show at in LA with the full lineup, I was like right there to get the tickets, and I got tickets, and we went to LA to see them play.
So I'll tell you, when I went to college in Iowa City, and the word had spread that Bauhaus was getting together to play 3 shows. They were only going to do 3 shows. It was Paris, New York, and Los Angeles. And so my girlfriend and I were just like, we got to go to LA.
Was that the one recently?
No, this was in the mid 90s.
Okay.
Like late 90s.
Before 99, so 97, I think, yeah.
So we bought tickets, and then she couldn't get out of work for whatever reason. So I was like, I guess I'm going to go to LA by myself. And so I did.
He's not with that girl anymore.
Well, no, we're still together, actually.
I'm totally kidding.
And so I flew out to LA, and I made my way to the venue. It was the same place where the Talking Heads filmed Stop Making Sense.
Oh, wow.
With the Palladium, I think.
Yeah, I think that's where they played.
Yeah.
I believe that's where they played when we just went to see them in 2019.
Yeah. So I bought my ticket, and then they announced like a second and a third Palladium
That's
show.
the same thing that.
And so I went to my show. It was great. I saw Flea. I remember standing in the crowd, and Flea walked by, and there were these total meatheads. They were like, "Yo, what's up, Flea? What's up, Flea?" And he's just like, "Hey, what's up?"
I'm just enjoying music.
Yeah, just trying to keep walking. But anyway, while I was like at the show, I think word came out that they had booked a 13 U.S. city tour. And so my girlfriend bought us tickets for Chicago to see him at the Riviera. So I saw this amazing show in L.A., and we had seen Love and Rockets a few times.
I think I might have seen
I'll
Love
circle
and
back
Rockets.
to that in a second. But we came back to Iowa, and we went to Chicago to see them, and it was like completely oversold. It was miserable.
I hate when a venue
And I'll
does
tell
that.
you what, for their encore, they brought out fucking Billy Corgan.
Really?
Yeah, and he sang Telegram Sam.
Really?
And he clearly didn't know the words.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a
Oh, that's a
shame.
bummer.
And it was just like, what are you guys doing? Stephen Perkins came out and played drums.
That's
Love
a T-Rex
love Stephen
song.
Perkins.
That's a
Great drummer,
T-Rex
but-
song.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it sounds like they.
But before that, let me back up. Like, years before that, it was just kind of like Bauhaus is never going to play again.
Yeah.
And Laura and I used to go see shows in Chicago all the time at the Metro. And
Yeah.
things like that. We went and saw Love and Rockets when Lift came out, and we went twice. They came through twice, and we went once the beginning of the tour, and then they did a second show like 6-7 months later, something like that. And they played Slice of Life by Bauhaus, and
Yeah.
it was like, holy shit,
That's really
this
cool.
is amazing.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
really
like,
cool.
we were like right against the barrier, and I was
Yeah.
surrounded by these girls that were just screaming their heads off, my girlfriend included.
Yeah.
I
I'm
had
gonna say,
never-
let me just say, I'm a huge fan and a friend of his girlfriend.
Ah, yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
lovely,
Yeah.
lovely human. I can
You're
say
also a joker.
she's a very
You're
good friend
also
of
a
mine.
joker.
I was gonna ask, like specifically about this record.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
Like, let's talk about a few songs
Okay.
because.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
well,
because I mean, there's so many different elements on this record
Well, a
that
lot of-
remind me
a
of
lo-
so many different things.
a lot of fans are iffy or cut between this album because it doesn't feature a lot of Peter Murphy. Peter Murphy had
Sure.
pneumonia at the time, and so Daniel Ash and David J, I believe, do a singing on
Most of the singing, yeah.
a lot of the songs,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they wrote a lot of the songs. And I think that for a long time, Peter Murphy was a little bit bitter at the fact that they went ahead and did the album without.
But the
him,
singing is wonderful. On
It
it.
is.
That's what I was wondering because I
There's
don't.
almost harmonies for them. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's like this weird, you know, like piece of art, like an opera almost, you know, at parts. But there's real
It
singing
does
on
feel
There's
like
real
it's
singing
sort
on
of
it.
it's sort of assembled, but I don't have context of this album.
So I can.
And just to say from my perspective, I go in if I don't know an album, I don't try to like look it up into stuff. I just listen to it as it is, and I was very surprised that it was it was such a varied album.
Yeah, I was going to say, driving in the
was
mountains
interesting.
at 8 a.m., blasting Hope is one of the best things ever.
I love
because I did that this morning.
I do want to talk
Literally
about
coming
the,
here,
I
and
want
it
to
was
make
wonderful.
sure, like, not right now, but like before we end this episode, I want to talk about the order that that the songs are in.
Let me,
'cause I like that.
let me just kind of throw my 2 cents in here real quick. My perspective on this album is it's almost like this breaking point for the band, or it's like a Rosetta Stone for what is to come.
It definitely
You know, David
is.
J. wrote the song Anton Artaud. If you look at this photo of him kind of staring at the light bulb.
Right.
So there's this painting
love
by Bala, an Italian futurist called Street Lamp. And the Italian futurists kind of had this mantra of kill the moonlight.
Yeah.
And the idea was to just destroy the traditional notions of art and beauty, and everything's moving forward.
It's called Kill the Moonlight.
Kill the moonlight is the mantra, but the painting was called Street Lamp.
But
And if-
but it's funny because they have like Who Killed Mr. Moonlight.
Yes, I'll come back to that. So if you find the painting, I put it on my Instagram today in
I'll
anticipation
check
of
it
this.
out.
But you look at it, and I had never noticed it before, but you can see the moon in the background, but it's like a painting of a street lamp. And the idea was electricity is killing natural beauty, and that's a good thing for the Italian futurists. It was just pure industrialization.
Wow.
And so yeah, kill the moonlight is kind of, that painting kind of personifies that mantra. This is like some serious grad school talk here.
Oh yeah.
I love it, yeah.
But if you look at this and you think about the song "Who Killed Mr. Moonlight," And then right after this,
Speaking of which, aren't we listening to Marquee Moon right now? Like,
I hear it.
Yes.
yeah,
David J. did
Thank
a
you.
solo album.
Thank you, Billy Inman.
for picking it.
Yeah, David J. did a solo album called Etiquette of Violence.
Okay.
And if you look at the photo that's on the back of that, it's like the same thing, but he's like grasping the light bulb.
Oh.
So I've always thought of Who Killed Mr. Moonlight as kind of being about the death of Bauhaus.
Wow.
If you look at the
Okay.
lyrics, are like someone shot nostalgia in the
That
back.
is that by the way is it might be my favorite like line lyric ever written.
Right.
I love that line. It's so like romantic but sad and but I mean, it's just
It is. It's dark.
yeah. But that
So,
thank you.
Yeah, if you think about the kind of the songs, like you mentioned Hope.
Love
To
that
me, that's the beginning of Love and Rockets, because that's
Wow.
like a very
a
Love
lot
and
of these
Rockets
songs
song.
Well,
really do hint at Love and
I
Rockets.
feel
because
Love and
they-
Rockets vibe because I
yeah,
know
it's-
Love and Rockets more than Bauhaus, honestly.
I mean,
Kingdom's Coming, that's like what Peter Murphy's solo
we were
career is
listening
about
to.
become.
Okay, so it really did like list
it's sort
all
of
those.
like
Yeah.
was the kind of pointed everybody in their various directions
Sure.
of where they went after this.
Sure. And
Well, then-
Anton Artaud, like David J. wrote the lyrics for that, and that's like a really intense, kind of
That's-
scary song.
Yeah.
And I always thought the lyrics were those Indians whack on his bones, but it's those Indians wank on his bones.
Are they really?
Which is-
Yes, it's a
Jeez.
reference to Anton Artaud went to Mexico to study like a tribe of Indians,
right?
and they invited him into their
Wow.
peyote ritual,
Uh-huh.
and they all got naked and danced around a fire and masturbated, and it like
Really?
it freaked-
Obviously,
I always
they're
thought it was
wanking.
whack on
No,
the
they're wanking
bone.
on someone's bone.
But I
But
know
it-
that they were because
Anton Artaud was like
He was a-
horrified by
he
this.
was a-
to
was
tell
he a
the day
writer?
died. Artaud, he was an artist.
artists. Well, I know that they were
All
like
the above.
they were all like a big fan of his.
Yeah.
And-
It's all related to futurism and
Yeah.
Dada, which came from that, and all that. Good
What I
you
think
know-
is interesting. I'm sorry.
No, never.
What I
no
think
way.
is interesting, and like they were all very, very. They said that like the closest thing to them, like that was out around the same time, was the Clash because they
Wow.
were very, very into reggae and dub.
Yeah.
Like that's what they
Yeah.
listened to most. And I believe it was
Well-
maybe Daniel Ash, David J. One of them said. I don't know. Bela Lugosi, the song,
Yeah.
was originally
Sure.
meant as dub. Like it was just like.
well, I mean,
bass
it's
and drums,
it's
you know?
amazing. It's amazing when a band can cite like Sex Pistols and Captain Beefheart, who I love, as an influence, but yet they influence like
But sound-
but they influence Perubu,
Yeah.
and it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
wait, I
right.
could see how this happened.
How it all connects,
I just wanted to say this for like a minute, and I'm such a side A person when it comes to vinyl.
Okay.
And I believe like come out of the box, hit it, and like horses coming out of the gates, whatever.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, this side B might be my favorite thing about this record.
It's one
Does
thing.
anybody need more PBR?
Yes, please. Slice of Hope and Kingdom Come are
Can we do,
just
like 4? Yeah.
like they're just perfect.
Slice of life and hope.
No, Hope's just a beautiful closer,
Yeah,
and
it's a beautiful closer.
and Chad just real opened my eyes to a whole new thing. One of my favorite things about this show is us talking about stuff, us revisiting stuff. So thank you, Chad. And then also at the end of the night, I'll go with someone and re-listen to this record after what he said, and I hear
Yeah.
it with fresh ears and stuff.
Hear the difference.
Thank
huh?
you.
And I don't know if there's actually like a code to crack with the street lamp, but clearly those lyrics.
Yeah.
It's swimming in their head.
He's playing
and
with that
they're-
imagery.
yeah.
Yeah,
with
and
the-
I never knew that about that song. That's fascinating. I mean,
Yeah.
I think.
No, the side A is, I guess, it's a really, especially the way they put it together.
Yeah.
It's pretty close to a perfect
I think
record
that's-
for what they did.
I absolutely- I
But
think,
side
yeah.
B is just, I'm a huge fan of dreams. I
Yeah.
always wish I could have more dreams, but when I have great ones, I'm the happiest man ever. And like listening to this sounds like how I want some of my dreams, like things to happen.
So
you know?
It's just. I mean, go ahead. I wanted to talk about the album,
I
like
was
the
gonna say,
order.
I remember buying this on cassette at the mall. It was like the most recent Bauhaus album after I kind of discovered them and was
Yeah.
actively buying music. And people complained about this record, saying that it felt like it was really pieced together.
I do not feel that way though. I know
I don't
some people
feel that
say
way
that,
either.
but I don't.
I think that's like a tertiary
Yeah.
listen.
I mean, I
without-
think it's very, very based, and I think a lot of people.
They also might have been straight up Peter Murphy, more Peter Murphy
I mean,
fans.
and I do think that there are
Thank
some
you,
people
Billy.
that
Oh, yeah.
aren't
Billy.
really excited about the fact that
Thank you.
that Peter Murphy wasn't as highlighted on this.
Thank you,
this
PBR.
album. But I think that's really, really based because I think that it It was more I do think it was more experimental. It was getting more of like other influences, and it was kind of showing the direction they were evolving, and you want a band to evolve. I mean, they did end so that they went their separate ways.
I am going to listen to this, thinking of my friend Chad, and then I'm going to go off and listen to some Bauhaus and Peter Murphy.
Yeah,
and I'm going to see these things.
I do appreciate that it's not like the Peter Murphy show. You know,
yeah.
I like that it is bringing these different since you have spoken to every member of this band.
Yes.
Yeah,
we can go a little bit longer because this is a very special episode.
Is there anything that, like, from your impressions and speaking to them personally, and that you bring to this to the band itself, or any insight that you have?
I mean this in the best possible way, but they are all truly misfits, and that's kind of what brought us all into music in the first place.
Yeah.
Peter Murphy, I've talked with him a handful of times over the years. I've detected the stutter, and I think that they're like a lot of their energy is kind of a balance of like overconfidence or overcompensating and like truly feeling uncomfortable.
Like it just kind of like is always a flux.
Yeah, as a journalist, David J. specifically has really kind of cut me down pretty hardcore.
Really?
Yes. I think they grew up in the time when the enemy was really brutal.
He also may have a chip on his shoulder that he's at least talked about, and he clearly is a brilliant writer.
David J. I don't think so. I mean, I think
he's put out the most music. Like he's got a ton of records out, and I think they're all great. Like I buy them all.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
And
basically compared to Peter Murphy and Daniel Ash.
Speaking off of that, you're saying David J. because Daniel Ash originally didn't, when he was first like doing Bauhaus, he didn't invite David J. There was another
Well, that's my
guy
point. You just don't hear his name enough.
But because David J. was always more the lead in like the other bands that they had done together, and he wanted something to be more him. But then after like a couple weeks of having this other guy, he was like,
he's vital, he's needed.
But I want to hear about the other
I remember talking to Daniel one time, and he was saying how he doesn't put out a lot of music because he just has a hard time writing songs. I think he has a hard time kind of grappling whatever that energy is that makes him Daniel Ash.
Pulling it from the ether.
But
the songs he does make are amazing. I mean, when he does make it, it counts. That's for sure.
Whereas David, it just seems like a faucet. Like there's just constantly music coming out of him.
Yeah, that guy probably just pisses songs.
Yeah, so the four of them created a really good chemistry and a good balance. And with Peter out, the three of them made a really good balance, and took their.
They've done a lot of things. I mean, they've done. I don't know if does Pop Tone have all three of them plus Haskins' daughter.
Pop Tone is Kevin on drums, Daniel Ash playing guitar, and Kevin's daughter. Playing bass. Diva.
Yeah.
Diva.
I met her at the Earl one night.
Did you really?
Yeah, she was in a band that played at the Earl, and she played with Lee Tesh's band.
Oh, Algiers.
Really?
Algiers?
It might have been Leonet.
Oh, Leonet, yeah.
And he had took a baseball and had everybody who played the show autograph the baseball for some reason.
Of course he did.
And he gave it to me. He's like, I don't know why I did this, but do you want this? I was like, yeah, of course. I still have it.
So now it carries with you.
So have you talked at all to Haskins? Because Haskins isn't really mentioned that much.
I talked with Kevin when he put out the book. I talked with him at one of the Bauhaus reunion tours for a story then, but I talked with him when the Bauhaus book came out about 3 years ago, I think. That was kind of his project, and I think he worked with some of the designers.
How's the book?
It's great. It's fantastic. It's a collection of all of like their kind of ephemera.
Their versions.
I'll have to get that info from you after the show. That info and then the name of the double album, the Peter Murphy.
Wild Birds Live. There's a best of CD called Wild Birds, but Wild Birds Live.
That's the first one.
Yeah. Greatest hits live.
Yeah. Well, and we went to me and my girlfriend Laura, who
is awesome,
and Aaron Smith, who used to be in the band Nurse. And we got backstage at the Masquerade to meet Peter Murphy.
Cool.
And I had some records on me, and I had that Wild Birds CD, and I asked him to sign I had the first Peter Murphy record, and he signed it for me, and I could not bring myself to ask him to sign another thing. I was just like, I don't.
It's kind of like you get one shot.
I don't want to.
If you want an article,
and he was being so supremely cool.
Yeah. That's wonderful, and it goes back to that Misfits thing. You know, that's why we all are here even right now. You know?
And I will say, Peter Murphy. has been nothing but a gentleman and very kind. When I've met him.
We love that.
He seems like it. I mean, even though he has like this like very artistic goth persona, like very dark, he seems like he would be just a very, very nice, grounded person.
And he seems like he truly is into his fans.
Yeah, that's the thing I gathered.
One final story, and this is embarrassing for me, but David J comes and does these living room shows, and he's been playing out at this place in Avondale, like the last few times he's been.
Like
in
the
town.
theater?
Are you serious? How do I not?
It's pretty low key.
Talk to
but
Chad.
I'll let
Chad
you know.
I need to talk more to
The
Chad.
answer is yes.
I did an interview with him, and he's got a thick accent. They're from Northampton.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the extended quote was, but he said, "I didn't entertain those circumstances," but with his thick accent, I heard, "I didn't entertain those circus dancers," and
And you're like,
I'm like, that must be a British thing.
No, I get it too.
I wrote that, and he like publicly shamed me on Facebook. He's like, "I never said that." And so I went back and I
Did he
listened to
really?
it. Yeah, it was embarrassing.
did he really?
And I listened to it like 10 times. And I was like, oh, he said circumstances.
Yes, he did.
It sounds like
And
circus
so
dancers.
Yes,
I
he
emailed him
did.
and said, hey, I'm sorry about that. I
Oh.
changed it. He's like, oh, no worries.
Oh, they were
Oh
that.
man.
And so then-
Okay, he's
then
forgiven.
They
came
seem awesome. You're
and
making me
did-
love him more.
He did the show, and in the middle of the show, he stopped. He's like, is Chad here?
Oh, arm hairs.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was the place where Big Mike Geyer does his rehearsals for Puddle's Pity Party. Or whatever.
Yeah, it's over in
And the
College
dressing
Avenue, I
room,
believe.
the dressing room is decorated with a bunch of circus dancers, and he's like, Chad was psychically channeling this whole evening, and I
Sure.
had no idea. So.
That
This-
was
this is true, and he signed his record, "Bring on the Circus Dancers."
Well, yeah. Well, it sounds like to me you got a friend for life because of mishearing something.
Wait, don't do the letter yet because I really do want to talk about
Okay,
like,
we
just
really
really
are
quick,
going. We're going
okay.
over.
I love the order of these songs
Me
because I
too.
think that She's in Parties is an amazing way to start, and then Who Killed Mr. Moonlight, one of
It's
my
a perfect way
favorites.
to end
It's
side A
perfect
of
way
a
to end side
final
A,
record.
and then Slice of Life, perfect way to start. Second
Slice Life is
side.
probably my favorite song.
Yeah, it's amazing. But and then Hope is just a beautiful way to wrap up all the. Do you have any favorites, really quick?
I was going to say Slice of Life, but
Okay.
also, I mean, Kingdom's
B.
Coming. I mean, side B is just,
Yeah.
it's a goth movie. I was hanging out with the Swedish lady, and she said it sounds like an opera for vampires, and I said it does.
It does.
It totally does.
Is this
That's-
Swedish lady's name start with a D?
Oh no.
Favorite song on the record?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
or
would
some of the
say,
ones you like.
Too, Anton Artaud.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like when I listen to that, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I feel my stomach
Although I'm going to
muscles
hear it
flexing.
differently now.
That's.
that
I can't wait to
that
listen
they're
to it
saying,
again
like,
later. Thank you,
But
Chad.
it was in. I got a quote here, where he talked in an interview from 1983, where he said Anton Artaud had gone to Mexico to investigate the Tarahumara Indians. After a while, they initiated him into their peyote cult and did the peyote dance for him. And his one image of the Indians dancing wildly around a fire, masturbating and throwing dirt at him, haunted him for the rest of his life. He seemed to take it personally.
Yeah.
So
That is wonderful.
this is great. But that song, like, I get amped when I hear
Yeah.
that song. But also, Hope,
Hope.
because this is the last Bauhaus
It
record.
really is.
Yeah,
Like, and despite all the dark imagery, there's very uplifting.
Yeah.
It's such a more
And
emotional.
It's like the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
Right.
And you refuse to admit it or see it. But now because of Chad, which I love that, what you
Right.
said, like, it's like I had a blast listening to it, like, I don't have a watch on, like 3 hours ago, listening to it because I love listening to it different times throughout before we have these sessions, you know. And then I can't wait to listen to it in 2 hours, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I love that this album has that it brings more romance and more positivity to goth because
it's romantic,
goth isn't.
yeah.
I mean, goth is dark, but it also has some. I mean, it's supposed to be romance. it's
Goths
supposed to be
need
like
love.
all
Goths,
these things.
Goths
It's
need
like-
love too. Goths need love too.
I do love Hope, and some people think it's repetitive, but they're dumb
Do
because
you know what the first lyrics on the record are? Like learning lyrics in the
okay.
rain.
All right, so
She's in
Yeah.
parties.
What's in the rain? No, that's the chorus, isn't it?
Well, there's this weird element of Douglas Fairbanks mentioned in this record.
Douglas Fairbanks.
I've never really been able to that's kind of impenetrable for me to figure out. He's an actor who's like Robin Hood and Zorro and The Thief of Baghdad.
But isn't it Douglas Fairbanks stunts? Is that the line?
I'm not sure what the lyric is, but I think there's a lot of imagery there's a lot of imagery.
There is.
That, like even in Who Killed Mr. Moonlight, they talk about broken arrows and pools of blood. To me, it makes me think of Anton
extracting
Artaud.
wasps from stings in flight.
Yes.
Okay, we got to do it.
But to me, the Douglas Fairbank reference, it's almost like this acknowledgement that Bauhaus is truly immortal.
Wow.
They've been immortalized, and it's time to move on. 25 years later, they came back and did Go Away White, which
I haven't heard.
I will say I did not like it at first, but in time, it's kind of one of my favorites.
How beautiful is that about music? Because I say this probably every other episode, and it's not for everyone, but it's like music is timing. Like there's things that I did not get or didn't like years ago, and now I love it. They might be my favorite artists, Yeah. And I'm so grateful for all of it.
Well,
so grateful for you bringing this record to us.
Because we didn't hear if James has any favorite.
Yeah, because we're not going to do the letter. We're just talking about this.
We're not going to do a letter. Are you okay if we don't do a letter?
Whatever you guys are most comfortable doing.
I don't have contacts with Bauhaus, so I'm like the least. This is not my wheelhouse, which is great because that's
you're
what
fresh.
I want to absorb about it. Yeah, and
Yes.
I mean. Honestly, I liked just aesthetically. I liked Honeymoon Croon as like a rocker.
See, that's cool because I love hearing what someone else's favorite song is because I know what my 2 or 3 are that like if I'm going to put on a Bauhaus
I love
song,
that. Yeah.
And it's classic Bauhaus.
This is
This
is a jam.
It's a little bit more. I mean, some of these songs are definitely more Bauhaus, but then some of them, you see more of like the directions they were going to go in. Yeah, that's definitely more.
Well, because
Honeymoon Croon, that's awesome because that's really not normally what somebody would pick.
And there's so many good, weird, repetitive melodies and hooks that stick with you that like the next day I'm like repeating
and
in my
little
head.
interesting tapestry, like sound tapestries in like the instruments, which I really appreciate.
That's a nice I'm taking the record away so we can wrap it up.
I was going to say, I could have spent 20 more minutes talking about my friendship with Chad because you really do mean so much to me. Thank you so much. I can say this that. Excuse me, you're one of my favorite people, and it's totally, it's all 100% a compliment. You're one of my favorite people to have a conversation with. And he visited me when I was living I guess technically I've been back and forth from New York. We had one of the best days in New York. And it was a time in my life I was going through some weird stuff. And we just went to like museums and art galleries. I wasn't drinking. I was sad, Tom, but building myself up to become this awesome Tom now, I think, and we had the best day.
It was a great day.
We were going to record stores, and we went to that gallery where the guy painted like New York hardcore, mosh pits and stuff, and
there was a guy that looked exactly like me in one of the paintings.
Yeah, I'm like, that's you in the mosh pit. But anyway, so I'm so grateful for you, and I'm so grateful for you for bringing this record, but also, as a musician, I'm not the biggest fan of critics and people who write reviews, and I really think you find the good in everybody. Even when you write a review on a band you don't like, you find something good about it, and I think that just says there's a special place in heaven for you. I just think you're awesome.
Well, what a nice human. Just the fact that he's so knowledgeable about music,
knows
and
a lot.
has written a lot, for Creative Loafing, right?
And now his own magazine, Rad ATL, and he writes for other magazines, and he is just awesome.
But it's like how many people are like that, kind of like knowledgeable and established in the scene, but still just incredibly nice human beings. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, PBR.
Thank
you, Trackside Tavern.
One thing before we sign off, in light of that, the thing that kind of drew me to music in the first place was I got into skateboarding because I didn't want to play football. Didn't want to wrestle. I always truly felt like I did not fit in where I grew up, and that was most apparent when I had to be like a team player. So music was always a good escape for me. But the number one lesson about punk rock that I got from skateboarding and punk rock was to always be a kind person and be an honest person. And my friends were the ones that were being made fun of.
Yeah.
The jocks were like chasing us in their trucks. You know, it was a small town in Iowa. So the punk rocks really had a target painted on our back. And so it was just like, like never approach another human being as though you're above them.
Yes.
And so without even thinking about it, that's kind of how I always approached music journalism. Because there is a lot of music that I truly cannot stand. But if you put it in front of me and say, write about this, I'm going to start working on it and think,
Try to find the positives.
how do I interface with this in a meaningful way?
That's good.
Man, that is awesome. I got a tear. Man, I love. I like everyone at this table. Thank you, Brian Colantuno, Trackside Tavern. Thank you, Matthew Darrow. Thank you, Billy Inman. Thank you, PBR.
Thank
you,
Bauhaus.
thank you, Bauhaus.
Thank you, Bauhaus.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chad Radford.
Chad Radford. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Have a good night.